currently the lead for negotiation and consultation with the Kátł'odeeche First Nation, but when I first came on working full-time 6 years ago, I was the Director of Lands, Resources and Negotiations. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to expand monitoring that was going on by the Kátł'odeeche First Nation within their traditional territory. KFN had been involved in more technical or scientific monitoring, usually partnering up with other agencies, Department of Fisheries and Oceans, Environment and Natural Resources, Canadian Wildlife Services, etc. But we felt that there was something missing, and that really was the traditional knowledge perspective on monitoring, and particularly monitoring of wildlife, fish and wildlife. And so we decided to approach CIMP, the Cumulative Impact Monitoring Program, which we were familiar with at the time, to see whether or not they would support a project that would utilize a traditional knowledge and traditional cultural approach to wildlife monitoring and monitoring of fish populations. What we knew from the elders was that monitoring was a fundamental part of the Kátł'odeeche First Nation traditional way of life. Harvesters were out, they were in different parts of the landscape, the territory all the time. They were harvesting and they were checking the health of animal populations, fish populations on a constant basis, and then when they got together, they were sharing this information and then reflecting on the overall health of the animals and the fish within their territory. But that wasn't happening to as great a degree as it did before. So what we wanted to do, though, was at least to try and reintroduce that approach to monitoring, in this case in a more structured way. So we put together a proposal for CIMP, which would allow us at certain times of the year, those times of year where certain fish or animal species were being harvested, to actually go out with harvesters, participate in a controlled and structured harvest, and at the same time monitor the health of the population and of the individual animals or fish that were being harvested. So we constructed a project proposal that was based on, we added berry picking as well to get the women more directly involved, although they were also involved in the fish monitoring. We designed a project that would involve berry picking in the summer months with a particular focus on cranberries, and then a fish monitoring with a particular focus on harvesting fish during spawning for whitefish in mid-September on Kátł'odeeche or the Hay River. And then a moose monitoring, which corresponded with a moose harvest up at Kátł'odeeche or Buffalo Lake in September, early October, and then a harvesting of boreal caribou later in the winter, sort of late November, December, or in some cases now because of climate change, it's moved to January. So the idea was for elders and harvesters to go out, do a controlled harvest as they would traditionally, and in the process of doing that, observe and document the presence of an abundance of a particular species, and then as and when animals or fish were harvested, actually look at the health of them according to traditional knowledge, techniques or methodologies. So we're looking for fat, we're looking for health of the organs, we're looking for damage to the outside of, in the case of fish, sores or cuts, in the case of larger game, the condition of the hide, those kinds of things. And then those were documented, and what we wanted to do was repeat that over a series of seasons, perhaps as long as we can, potentially. We got 3-year funding through CIMP. And through that was essentially then reintroduce that notion of using harvesting as a methodology for, on an ongoing basis, assessing the health of a particular species, whether it be fish or wildlife. And so that's what we've been doing, and it's been continuing. I'm no longer directly involved, but certainly I am aware of what's occurring, and certainly part of my role of negotiations and consultation, want to be aware at all times of the condition of animals within the KFN territory in case we have to negotiate certain regulations or measures to protect those species. So that was the project in terms of my involvement.
The Kátł'odeeche Kátł'odeeche program has a variety of different programs that it falls under, and one in particular is the moose harvest that happens in October, early October, and we also have a boreal caribou. It's called a Swan Lake hunt that happens every year. It's an annual hunt. 8 of our members, harvesters from the community, partake in both of those surveys. I have about eight different harvesters within the community that come with me. We harvest moose for our community in the fall time, but we're seeing low water, so we weren't able to do that this past year, 2023. The Swan Lake hunt is a boreal caribou hunt. Again, 8 individuals, harvesters from the community, attend. We stay on the land for 5 days at a time. I think we extended the last moose hunt in 2022 to 7 days. We got I think 2 moose that time. There was low water then also, so it made it difficult to harvest animals. And every time that I partake in these outings with community members and harvesters, I take samples. Moose samples consist of a handful of stool, the bottom jaw of the moose, the head, a 2x2 piece of the liver, 2x2 piece of the muscle on the hind leg, on the calf muscle, and I need bone marrow, so I take from the joint down on the hind leg, and the left side of the kidney with all the fat. I visually look and inspect to see how thick the fat is on the back strap. I look to see if there's any ticks or scars, any abnormalities after we open up the moose when we're butchering it up. So it's just a visual inspection that I look for little bumps on the inside of the ribs. They carry different diseases. There's small parasites that I've noticed in the hind legs of the moose. It's something that you can cook and render it down, and it's okay to eat. I also take a sample of the hair just behind the hump, right on the hump, actually, just on the top part of the neck. That too is taken. And then we come back. Everything's documented in the field, and I come back to town. It used to be ENR formerly, and now it's Environmental Climate Change Canada that we drop off the samples there in town. And then they get shipped to Fort Smith and then off to the vet. They sample it, and there's feedback that comes back to KFN yearly. They have yearly updates. So that's basically what I do. I look at the overall health when the animal's open.